We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club or two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart. All right, everybody. Hey, and welcome back. It has been a long time.
It has been nearly 4 and 7 years since we have returned.
You know, what was interesting is that I was overseas for a little longer, but it feels like I've been gone longer this time.
It really does. It really does.
And I think it's because we did a worse job of keeping things humming this time.
We were crappy at it this time.
But at the same time, man, like sometimes you just need a break, you know? And
that's true.
And we're gearing up for the big fall push, so this was kind of the last time that we were going to be able to take a breather. But you know what didn't miss a lick and kept on ticking? The
Summer of Cusack. Oh yeah, we are more than halfway through with yesterday's upload of episode 3 of the Summer of Cusack, Gross Point Blank.
Yeah, and Gross Point Blank, a great episode. I just want to give a shout out to One Crazy Summer. Everybody out there, you're making Bryan Tan sad by not listening to One Crazy Summer.
Yeah, that is like our lowest rated episode so far. Like no one has listened to it. It's like, all right, yeah, high fidelity is great. Oh, One Crazy Summer.
Come on, so man. I think everybody should go watch One Crazy Summer and then listen to the podcast. It's worth it, man. It's a wild time.
And we riffed it so hard. I mean,
we
come
did.
on. That's all the more reason alone.
Yeah, and Gross Point Blank went up yesterday, and it's doing well.
Yes, it is. Gross Point Blank is just like one thing. Also, what part of the problem is that Gross Point Blank is a much more well-known film of John Cusack.
Yeah, and honestly, all of them except for One Crazy Summer are pretty popular films.
Yeah, you're very true, and that's the thing too. That's like a premium Cusack film, where all right, we're getting messages again. All right, can't get away from the song.
Yeah.
Shout out to Joe Compton for loving the Plotaholics theme song.
Yeah, and shout out to Joe Compton for being a part of our excellent Gross Point Blank episode.
Absolutely, Joe Compton made the episode hilarious. He didn't He what's great, and you're gonna have to listen to it, is that Joe continued his MVP status as well
by just continuing to find creative ways to fuck up.
Yeah, gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. Man. Every time Joe is on, it's hilariously fun.
Yeah, Joe's a great guest, and so in 2 weeks we'll be back at the Summer of Cusack with the Hot Tub Time Machine. But without further ado, let's get into
a Plotaholics Live show.
Yeah, Plotaholics Live. It's been another busy week. I thought we would take just a quick moment to do a check-in on the Endgame versus Avatar numbers.
All right. Endgame and Avatar.
So here, this most recently, as of or a few hours ago, still about 8 mil away.
Actually, about a little under 7.
In
the upper sixes, about like 6.8 million away. And now, so the Blue Lion people are very slowly but surely about to lose their grip.
I just don't know that I agree, man. I think that it's over. And here's the other thing that I think it's over until Endgame has a legitimate re-release. But here's what I think. I think if they keep doing this bullshit, like the re-release with terrible new footage and the We Love You 3000 tour, it's just desperate, bro. Like, give it a rest.
Well, here's the thing too. Avatar is now owned by Disney.
Yeah, so they already have it.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, too, and I heard this from another show that I listened to today, and it actually made a lot of sense. It's that when Avatar 2 does finally come out, they're probably just going to re-release Avatar 1 in theaters again.
Yeah.
So that way, when Avatar 2 comes out, they can say the sequel to the top grossing film of all time.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about that until I heard it on another show, but it made a lot of sense. And hey, shout out to
we got Joe.
All right.
We got Joe to the end.
Joe to the end.
Yeah, if you are joining us live, be sure to drop a comment wherever you are watching, and so we can get you into the conversation.
Absolutely. But I mean, and shout out to John Campea that actually, had that thought, and I thought about it, and if I were Disney, I would do that. I would seriously put a major marketing push behind the first Avatar just to start drumming up excitement for the second Avatar, because it's been 10 years since Avatar 1 was, since it's been even remotely relevant. Like now it's like an afterthought in film history, except for the fact that it takes the top slot.
Yeah, I'm halfway surprised that when Doctor Strange opened those portals at the end of Endgame, that the Avatar blue people didn't walk out of one of them.
Well, because those blue lions, man, they're so badass that they like Jake Sully. Oh, Nita Stewart's with us.
Yeah, Nita's in the house.
That's awesome. She's always with us. Thanks
so much. Over on the YouTubes.
What? But yeah, I think that if they would have shown up, it would. Well, I don't know, man, because they're all tall and skinny. Like all Thanos would have to do is just hit him in the calf once and shatter.
Yeah, they're tall and skinny. That's not like anyone else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Doctor Strange.
He's not that bad.
But he's pretty skinny. But anyway, I just wanted to give a quick check-in on the totals. So, yeah, I mean, they're closing the gap for sure. And so we'll see. And while we're in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we might as well touch on a couple of other things. The big news of today being, Bryan,
Thor 4 has been confirmed. And that means Taika Waititi is back to write. Is it write and direct or just direct?
I know direct, but I think the screenplay had a couple of other names on it.
That is awesome because, I mean, I'm sorry. Thor Ragnarok was the best in the Thor series. I mean, Thor 1 is okay. It looks very pretty. It's great cinematography, but it has some boring parts. Thor Dark World is probably among the weakest of the MCU.
Yeah, of any of them.
Yeah, and Thor Ragnarok was just amazing. It was funny. It was action-packed. And now that we are officially getting a fourth Thor film in Phase 4 with Taika Waititi back, that
Joe,
is
no,
awesome.
you're good. You're good on Facebook, Joe.
Yeah, you're good where you're at, Joe.
Yeah, all the comments are fixed now. So
yeah. So I'm very excited. That means Korg and Meek are going to be back. And I'm so excited. I really, really am. But
Bryan, to answer your question, Ragnarok was written by three names: Eric Pearson, Craig Kyle, and Christopher Yost. So,
all right, so
not a writer. I mean, honestly, that writing team should absolutely be back as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But now, one thing I'm wondering though, and I guess we'll find this out over the coming months and year or so, is which is going to come first: Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or Thor 4? Because last we saw Thor, spoiler alert.
Yeah, I think you have to go Guardians 3 first and then have him split off again.
I think that would probably be best. I mean, that would make the most sense in the narrative.
Well, and we've known a long time that Guardians 3 has been greenlit, so they're probably much further along in development and production than right. Well, since Thor 4 just got announced today. So
right. Well, we're going to find out a whole lot more at San Diego Con, which is taking place this week. We'll find out a whole lot more. So I'm very excited to be checking on that news.
Yeah, but thankfully.
Thor 4, I am so excited. I'm glad at least one of the original 6 is going to be still around, because we don't know what's going to go on with the Hulk. We already know that Iron Man's dead, and Robert Downey Jr. is looking to distance himself a bit from the MCU. Chris Evans is sort of taking his sort of step back for a bit because, spoiler alert, we got old Cap. You know what? And Joe makes a good point there. It also means that the thought is that Phase 4 is going to be about Thor's arc. And I think who better besides Captain Marvel to really help bridge that gap between Earth and the cosmic? You know, because Thor's the only one other than Captain Marvel that's going to be strong enough to stand some of these cosmic threats.
What's interesting about the Thor franchise is before Thor Ragnarok, he was probably the Avenger or the MCU character that I was least excited about seeing standalone films from. Mm-hmm. And then when Ragnarok came around, man, it just changed the whole game for him.
Absolutely. So I think Thor has a lot more. I think Ragnarok really breathed a fresh breath of life into it. And, you know, they've got Chris Hemsworth now for a lot longer. He just signed a new deal a little while ago. And the thing is, I think that with, you know, the failures that he's had in film and everything other than the MCU, he's probably going to stick with Marvel and Thor for a long time because none of his other ventures outside of the MCU have really been...
Yeah, I was looking at some of his credits earlier, and while they might be, you know, critical darlings, they're not really doing much at the box office. So
no, and even
but you know, we've also talked about this. A bunch of people do these comic book movies in order to finance their pet projects. You know, so
that's true. But I mean, you even look at and we talked about it on the last live show. That, you know, this is like, you know, that Men in Black sequel, which was absolutely atrocious. I won't go and see. I have no desire to see. But I mean, that's just another one because you figure Red Dawn didn't do all that great. Cabin in the Woods, you know, it was a very interesting film, but I mean, he wasn't even the best part of Cabin in the Woods.
Right.
You know, and then Ghostbusters, the 2016 Ghostbusters. I mean, he was the only bright spot. He was the bright spot critically of that film.
Right. Yeah, he needs to maybe even be a little bit more careful with what he decides to sign up for.
I think so, because I mean, Thor, he's found his niche. Oh, we got Richard White with us. All right. Hey, what's up, buddy? But I think that you're right. He needs to be a little bit more selective, but maintain Thor because that's his bread and butter. That's what's going to keep him relevant.
Yeah. Joe has some thoughts on Secret Wars.
I think Secret Wars is going to be that next one. I think it's going to be. I think that's what it's going to be. I think Secret Wars is going to be.
I have read that, and this again is all speculation until it's not. That you have that they're not going to focus on a decade long arc in the next batch. That they're going for shorter arcs, and they're going with Earth-based arcs and galaxy-based arcs.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, and so they're looking at like a galaxy-sized big bad for, you know, Captain Marvel and to bring in some of the mutants and Fantastic Four and some of those things. But then they're also saying that Norman Osborn is probably going to be the Earth big bad in the next phase.
Well, the only thing that I have against that, unless Sony and Marvel sign a new deal, which I'm pretty sure they are with how well Homecoming is. I mean, not
Homecoming needs to make it.
Far From Home.
Far From Home needs to cross the $1 billion mark for it to be automatic.
Right.
And it's close.
Yeah, because I think the thing is that as long as, you know, the MCU is doing great things with Spider-Man, you probably can do that, but it's kind of a dangerous slope because if you get one Spider-Man movie that doesn't really make it, now you've made these long-term plans and Sony can just be like, nah, don't want to do it no more. So you got to be very careful. And if you're going to use Norman Osborn, who's a very integral character and a very integral villain, not just for Spider-Man, but other, you know, of the heroes in the MCU, you've got to be very, very careful. I think that something needs to be done between Marvel and Sony to sort of make that little uncertainty.
Yeah, and Alan Pelk chimes in with a little stop making superhero movie thing. And honestly, man,
that's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. But I also don't necessarily disagree. I'm really interested to see how the back end of this thing, the back end, clearly Far From Home did really well. But what is going to be the fallout on the other side of that?
Well, I think what they're going to have to do is probably even make less superhero movies.
They're going to have to take the foot off the gas a little bit.
Right, because eventually you're going to get people like me who loves the superhero films. The problem is that unless you have a better way to put them out there so that they're not just superhero films, you're going to
what Nolan did with what Nolan did with Batman, right? Like that's a different kind of thing.
Exactly, because as much as I love the MCU, I love it so much. But after doing my, my own personal Mike Ferry in the house, doing my little film review. I mean, not film review, my little my little whatever the hell that I did leading up to Endgame. And then Endgame, I
Yeah.
got really burned out. Like
Yeah.
I went to go see Far From Home, and we'll get into more of my thoughts into Far From Home in a little bit. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like it would have been if I wasn't burnt out.
Yeah, it's oversaturation, but at the same time, you got to get while the getting's good, right? Like this is the moment to make this stuff, and I think it will become evident when that time has passed.
Yeah.
But somebody that shares in our sentiment, you wanted to talk about this a little bit, Brian.
Life After Marvel with Robert Downey Jr. is looking forward to his Life After Iron Man, and this is something that was, it's been running around, and I don't have the quote in front of me. Give me a second. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, in short, he essentially says that what he's done with that character doesn't define him, and he's looking forward to moving past it and the challenge that it presents to move past that character.
Right. And I think that that's an amazing idea for him to do because, I mean, really, he's been, and matter of fact, and this is from pinkvilla.com, and this came up yesterday. He's essentially looking to distance himself, and, he's 54 years old. So, he's probably getting a little bit burned out from doing all the crazy action. But he said,
well, the dude is clearly talented enough to put this behind him.
Oh, absolutely. Well, this is what he said, and I'm reading a quote here from Pink Villa, and this was written by Leshawna Sharma. Says, quote, "I am not my work. I am not what I did with that studio. I am not that period of time that I spent playing this character. And it sucks because the kid in all of us wants to be like, no, it's always going to be summer camp, and we're all holding hands and singing Kumbaya. Initially, by creating and associating and synergizing with Tony Stark in the Marvel Universe and being a good company man, but also being a little bit off kilter, being creative and getting into all of these other partnerships. It was a time when, what do they say? Owners start looking like their pets." And that says it right there. If that's not a guy who is like talking about feeling burned out, we forget that he had a massive career, a massively successful career before Iron Man. And granted, he fell on hard times in those couple of years. Yes, he has been in Marvel films the longest, because he was the guy who he started the MCU. Iron Man was the first film in the MCU since 2008. Now, granted, he had some hiccups with, substance abuse, and, Jon Favreau really fought Disney and Marvel hard to have him as Tony Stark, because who else was going to be Tony Stark but Robert Downey Jr.? But, I mean, you look at the guy's body of work, supporting character in Weird Science, lead actor, co-lead with Mel Gibson in Air America, Chaplin, where I believe he got an Academy Award nod. Less Than Zero, co-lead with Andrew McCarthy and Jamie Gertz. I mean, my God, the man has done so many successful films. Supporting role in the ensemble film Soap Dish with Hollywood heavyweights at the time of Kevin Kline, Sally Field, Whoopi Goldberg. I mean, the man had a huge...
Brian Penn, your knowledge, you don't have to just fling your big wiener around here with all of this encyclopedic movie knowledge.
You know what's funny is that all that just came off the top of my head. The whole point is that he's not just Tony Stark. And I don't blame him for wanting to have that step aside. Yes, and a scene stealer in Tropic Thunder. So the man
Absolutely
deserves a chance to step away from Tony Stark. And I mean, he I think it's great for him, and I don't think anyone should begrudge him of that. I really don't.
Let's see. Moving into a couple of other things, just something to take note of. Not a lot to say here at this point, but we found out this week that Jordan Peele's Candyman sequel will begin filming in August.
Now, this is something that I'm very excited for. Candyman was one of my favorite horror films in the early mid 90s. And Tony Todd, even to this day, man, this guy's got a commanding presence. And I think Jordan Peele's really setting himself up to be a heavyweight in horror,
absolutely,
thriller and suspense. And I think him taking on Candyman is going to be absolutely amazing. Hell, Tony Todd looks so good now. I bet you he could still play Candyman, but I wouldn't mind seeing Winston Duke as Candyman.
Well,
How imagine would it be to see M'Baku as Candyman?
Yeah, you know what I'm excited about with this Candyman thing is that he's been very careful with the language that he's used to describe it. It's not a reboot. This is a sequel,
which is
and that better. Right, and this is take this page. Other directors and writers should take note of this, right? Just because it's been several years doesn't mean that you can't just keep telling the story. You don't have to start it over every single time.
Exactly, because I mean, you look at what they did with Child's Play, the Child's Play reboot. I mean, that hasn't been setting the world on fire. Pet Sematary reboot hasn't set the world on fire.
No, neither. It did well, and I think it did well, and Halloween did well, and I think that gave a bunch of studios permission to kind of go ahead and do this thing. And it just doesn't. It's just not always going to be automatic, and especially with Child's Play, that was just a terrible concept.
Right. Well, I mean, but it is. I like the idea in theory that it's the AI, but we already saw that before. It's called Terminator.
Yeah.
But and I think what they did right with it is that it wasn't. They didn't remake it or anything. They just modernized it. They followed closer to the book. And they just basically modernized it and made it R-rated. That's the only real difference. And then you reference Halloween. Halloween is a direct sequel to Halloween. It even cuts off Halloween 2. It is a direct sequel.
That's the crazy thing. Now, I think we've talked before about how it seems like Star Wars is designed to confuse older people. Because of how they timeline jump and everything. But man, have you ever thought about Halloween's timeline?
Oh my God. Now we're going to do we're going to do one movie after Halloween 2. That's going to have nothing to do with the movies
at all. Right.
And then we're going to do these other things where,
you go all the way through Halloween Resurrection on the original timeline. Then you reboot and do the Rob Zombie timeline for 2 movies. Yeah. Then you have another movie that goes back and wipes out everything from Halloween 2 through Halloween. Like that timeline. Yeah, that timeline is real jacked up.
That is a Deadpool joke waiting to happen.
Yeah. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, as Alan points out. That movie
creeped me out as a kid.
It's I don't know. Well, it's something I've tried to watch in the last year,
and it doesn't hold up. It's
have a happy Halloween, all right, Halloween, Halloween, have a happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
That is enough out of you. Damn you! Now it's in my head. You. I want to hit you.
Oh man,
it makes me so unreasonably violent.
Well, maybe there's something to that movie after all.
What did you think about the Rob Zombie Halloween series?
Okay, so I want to go ahead and say, and we were not necessarily prepared to talk a lot about Halloween.
No, we weren't.
But the original Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis was probably the first legitimate R-rated slasher flick that I discovered as a kid. And so it's always held a very special place in my heart. I think it was in 7th or 8th grade when I watched it, and so it did scare me. And so I got really into watching all of those movies and watched them. I would buy the VHSs as I found them, and go home and watch them. And so I was really attached to that series because at that point, the first Halloween scared me, but I also wasn't so old that I didn't realize that the other ones were bad. And so I was just really into it. And so I thought the Rob Zombie one was okay. It's nothing can ever beat the first Halloween.
I like the storytelling of the Rob Zombie ones because we got to actually see him become the man. And I liked him. I especially thought it was cool to see the annoying little French kid from Hancock become a monster.
I liked Michael's origin story, but we've also talked about how I don't think everybody needs an origin story.
No, they really don't. They really don't. But I think now here's my thing. I actually got into Friday the 13th before I got into Halloween. So Halloween is not as beloved with me.
Right.
You know, I mean, I can enjoy it, but if the original Friday the 13th is on, I'm going to watch it. If Halloween is on, I'm like,
yeah.
Something else I can put.
Yeah, I ride with Halloween for sure. Let's see. Let's push forward a little bit. Bryan, you're very excited. It seemed to me that you were very excited that Mortal Kombat the movie is going to include fatalities.
Yes, finish him. Yes. Now, oh yeah, yes, that is what I want to see, baby. Oh yeah, I want to see heads coming off. I want to see body parts burning. I want hearts pulled out of chests. I want kisses that make people erupt into flame. I even want to see some of those mermaids doing that girl mermaid stuff and making people explode into sound. Yeah, that's what I want. I now the original when Mortal Kombat came out in 1993. That was actually the first bootleg VHS I ever bought. Now this was back in the day when, you know, it looks the landscape of Pittsburgh looks different now, but there used to be guys near the Giant Eagle, which is a grocery store chain here in Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio, that was in the north, in the Oakland section of Pittsburgh, going toward the Hill District. And of course, you know, you had guys around that area selling bootleg merchandise. And I bought Mortal Kombat for $10. And I'll tell you something right now. I love that movie. I love Street Fighter when it came out, but I love Mortal Kombat as well. And it was like the fighting was great, but the story sucked. And I'm like, where are the fatalities? The only real fatalities we see are like none really. So I'm very excited to see that this Mortal Kombat's I will go see it just for the fact that it's R-rated with fatalities. It could have the worst script ever. You know what? I watched the first and second Mortal Kombat movies and Street Fighter. So we know I can handle horrible acting and horrible writing.
Right. Well, you know, it's not going to be as bad as.
It better not be. I hope not. I miss Sonic. I missed him so much. But I can't wait for this. This is going to be so much fun. I can't wait till they start casting. You know what? I want Joseph Gordon-Levitt to play someone. I don't even care who he plays. I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I'm down with that, man. I think that kid's pretty good.
He really is, man. I don't care. I just want him. I just want him in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't even care if he plays Jax.
Right.
No, that's, you know, you want to talk about causing a shitstorm in today's climate. Oh my God. And I said, you know what? I said the same thing, Mike. I was like, where are the fireballs? Where's and then they had Hakeem the Machine Alston die like early on in the movie. And that pissed me off, man. Word up. Hey, shout out to WMAC Masters, because I loved that show when I was a kid. Beetlejuice 2, I don't think is ever going to happen.
I know, it would be dope.
Sorry,
but
it would be dope, but it's never going to happen.
You know, the thing that would worry me about Beetlejuice 2 is that Tim Burton has become so Tim Burton that he's like folding back on himself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's almost like Tim Burton of the past showed up to Tim Burton of now, and they touched each other.
He's like
the same matter can't occupy same space.
His work has become like Tim Burton Human Centipede.
It's so bad.
We're like really Tim Burton that made Beetlejuice shits into the mouth of Tim Burton that made Batman Returns, who shits into the mouth of Tim Burton who made Willy Wonka,
who shits into the mouth of the Tim Burton that made Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Right. So
it would be. Yeah. I don't think it would be any good. You could get the original cast back. And with what Tim Burton's been doing within the last like 10 years, it just wouldn't work. Like his last good movie, in my opinion, was Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I like his style, man, but it's just missing something lately, you know?
It's like I'm Tim Burton.
Yeah. And speaking of somebody whose style I really like, but who lately has been missing something, news out of the Kevin Smith camp.
Now, this has me kind of excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Smith is actually going to be reading the script of Clerks 3 as a fundraiser benefit for the First Avenue Playhouse in Jersey.
Yeah, which is the theater where they did their casting for the original Clerks.
Yeah, and I give them a load of credit. I'm trying to find the story, but of course they updated. You know what? I know where I can go for that. But it has me excited because I'm still really upset that we're not going to get to see a Clerks 3 because the guy who plays Randall Graves, Jeff Anderson, apparently he's just not. He's not into it anymore. He's not into doing the character anymore. Yeah. And that's really upsetting. But I think it would be really, really, I think it's really cool that, Kevin Smith is doing this. He's given some love to, a place that was really, really big for his career to help get him started. And I'll tell you the truth, man, I wish I had the extra money because I would go to this. I would love to see what Clerks 3 has been. Yeah,
and Kevin Smith does have a lot of stuff going on for sure. The dude
really does.
He is a workhorse.
Yeah, he's going to be having Jay and Silent Bob's reboot coming up, and I mean he does. Plus, he does an awesome YouTube channel. Yeah, some amazing film reviews. So I mean,
I am a huge Kevin Smith fan. Not a huge fan of Yoga Hosers, but
I could have done without Yoga Hosers.
But honestly,
I watched it.
Yeah, his work has mostly been a joy.
It's been very consistent with who he is as a person as well.
Yeah.
Even Red State, you could still get a little bit of Kevin Smith in there. And I'll tell you the truth, that was a very underappreciated film.
Now, I never saw that.
You never saw Red State? I suggested. I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
What was your first Kevin Smith movie, Shane?
My first Kevin Smith movie was, and this is going to be kind of wild. It was Dogma.
Oh, that was your first, filmed here in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Dogma was my first, and it was because, and this is not to get anybody in trouble, but when I was coming up, my family had the old DirecTV, and we had the cards that you could use to get like the pay-per-view,
Yeah.
And so like Dogma was on pay-per-view once, and so I just kind of had it on, and I was like, "This shit is wild," and so from there, it led me to discover more of the View Askew universe, which I have grown to love a lot. Now, my favorite film in the View Askew universe is either Mallrats or Chasing Amy. I think.
Nice. See, Mallrats was my first Kevin Smith movie. I remember The Guide. I remember the Guide channel, and I would see everything for Clerks, but at the time Clerks came out, I was 14. I didn't want to see stuff in black and white. I wasn't into. No, I was like 15. I didn't want to see stuff.
Right? Yeah, we couldn't conceptualize that like something like that wasn't old, right?
Right. So then a buddy of mine, actually one of my best buddies growing up, nicknamed Truck, he brought Mallrats to my attention, and I fell in love with it. And then I started watching all the rest of his movies. But I think if I'm gonna go for a favorite, I love Richard Boyer in the house.
Richard, is that the church with Buddy Christ? Was it the Buddy Christ church?
I believe that if it's not that one, I think I know the one he's talking about because I've known Richard for a while.
Gotcha.
As far as my favorites, among my favorites of the View Askew universe, Dogma is up there because Dogma helped me when I was having a crisis of faith in my 20s.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say Mallrats always has that special place in my heart. But I'm one of the few people that loves Jersey Girl. I thought Jersey Girl was a great movie, and I don't think it gets enough credit.
Yeah, Jersey Girl. I forgot about Jersey Girl. And that's to your point, right?
I mean, it's one of his movies that gets crapped on because of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. But I think it was one of his. That movie had so much heart.
Okay.
It had so much heart. I love that movie.
Yeah, but yeah, big fan of Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith is the man.
So now, Bryan, it is that time in the show where we must touch on something that is going to cause some controversy.
Oh, I love it when things are controversy.
As many as I'm sure all of us know by now, because it has created an internet shitstorm, the likes of which we haven't seen since Ariel was a black girl. Lashana Lynch to play the new 007. Now, Brian, let's talk a little bit before I even look at the comments about what this means. Because a lot of people seem to think that Lashana Lynch, who is admittedly a black woman,
no,
what? You know, I had to look it up on Wikipedia to make sure, but yes, Lashana Lynch is a black woman.
It's gotta be a lie. Wikipedia is not a use. You're a college professor. You should know Wikipedia is not cited.
Also, Brian, it has been pointed out to me that Lashana Lynch was a supporting character in everyone's least favorite Marvel movie, Captain Marvel.
Oh.
And so she's the new 007. What it doesn't mean is that she's the new James Bond, right?
No, it's not. Listen up, you He-Man woman hating.
This is like the 007 moniker is the same as any other job title, right? Professor, lieutenant, general. You can have anyone can be any of those things, right?
And if James Bond is retired, as they're saying is part of this movie, so what? Are they just going to retire 007? Oh, I'm sorry. John Elway retired. No one else in football can now wear number 7.
Right. Here's the other thing, is that James Bond isn't actually that good. Like, he's pretty sloppy.
Little bit.
Yeah, so like a lot of people died. I don't think he's worth a retiring the number.
No, he's really not. He's no Mario Lemieux. Now,
here's the other thing, and I promise that we'll come to the comments in just a second. I see them stacking up. Here's the other thing that I wanted to point out, and that is that Daniel Craig has been saying he wants to be done with this thing since he started.
And that is bad. Hey, I've got a role of a lifetime. I don't want to do this.
And so he's still making these movies. So, dude, like, if you don't want to make them anymore, get the fuck out, right?
Hopefully is still making them because that paycheck is fat cash.
Right. So, now, James Bond, depending on how you want to read the character, is either as old as Daniel Craig or as old as dirt. Because he's been in movies since what, like the 60s?
Well, what's the difference between being Daniel Craig and being as old as dirt? What's the real difference?
Well, that you bring up an interesting question there as well. So,
he's not,
for my opinion, Lashana Lynch being the new 007 is fine. And Richard Weiss's Jane Bond. Whatever.
Please.
Right. That's not going to be the name. It's not going to be that kind of thing. Honestly, I don't even think that it's going to be as bad as what as the like the Supergirl Superman thing, right? We've got Amanda in the house now throwing some love at Captain Marvel, who big fan of Captain Marvel myself. Looks like we just lost Bryan. So it's time for the Shane Action Hour, everybody. I believe that Lashana is going to probably be just fine in her new designation as 007.
Absolutely. And you know what? Just stop with the BS already. I mean, come on. I mean, here's the thing, and this is what makes me mad. And I'm actually going to put this out there. It's rant time, Shane. We haven't had a good Bryan Tan rant in a while. Exactly. And that's what I want to do to the people that get on me. Quit messing with our franchises. How would you feel if a white guy was Luke Cage or was Martin Luther King and went? You know what? If that is your argument, you know what? Delete me. If I'm on a friends list of yours, block me. Yeah. Never speak to me again.
Yeah, you can do that for me too, man.
Yeah, because if that is going to be your argument, not only are you a moron, not only are you an idiot, but you know what? You are someone that I don't want to talk to. Here's the thing. If a character's race is important to that character, i.e. Luke Cage, when he was created, cannot be a white guy. He cannot be a white guy. Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, him being played by a black guy, you know why? It doesn't matter, because the Kingpin's race was never a big deal. Okay, guess what? A white guy can't play Martin Luther King. You know why? Martin Luther King is black, you assholes. I'm sorry, was black, you assholes.
Right, and it should also be noted, Brian, and I'm sorry to step on your rant, but Martin Luther King Jr., and this again, according to Wikipedia, was a real, actual person.
Oh my God.
So,
oh my God.
It actually does kind of matter how he's portrayed, right?
Right. Oh, and here's
you know who's not a real, actual person?
Ariel,
the Little Mermaid.
What? Yes.
Or 007.
Yes, anyone can be 007, because you know what? The way I always took it, James Bond is also a code name, which means anyone could probably have it. Okay? Idris Elba could become James Bond.
Honestly, that's who I was holding out hope for.
That is who I would want to be James Bond, because you know what? It could be anyone. James Bond, 007 is a job title. James Bond could be a designation, and it's a designation held for someone who is elite, not a big freaking deal. And you know what? And if you want to use, and I'll tell you the truth, guess what? Daniel Day-Lewis is Bill Cutting. Bill Cutting couldn't be a black guy because the character Bill Cutting was actually based off of real life Bill the Butcher, who was a white guy. So obviously he would not be a black guy. But you know what? All you people that are sitting there and doing all your whining, quit trying to be social justice warriors and blah, blah, blah. You know what? Get over yourself.
You know, my thing is this. I thought a lot about this earlier.
Yes, and Richard is right. Yep. People got all pissed off when we had a black Vulcan. Get over yourselves.
I was thinking about this earlier, and I thought, what does it say to a young girl, a young African-American girl, who sees for the first time that the Little Mermaid is going to look like her, right? And she's probably really excited about that because, look, The Little Mermaid's kind of a dope movie. So, like, why wouldn't you want it to look like you, right? And then what happens when she hears all of these grown men say, or grown anybody, right, say that that's not what the Little Mermaid looks like? What does it say to this little girl that the Little Mermaid can't belong to her because the Little Mermaid belongs to white people?
Right. Or better yet, they're like, oh, well, why don't we make Tiana black? Make Tiana white. You black folks will lose your minds. The whole point of the story was that she was black. And that's something else. And that also goes to show the racist hypocrisy that is Hollywood and that is some of these fandoms, is that characters that are people of color, i.e. not white, have to have special designations that they aren't white. And that is ridiculous.
Or the misogyny, right?
Like the misogyny of it all.
Rey in Star Wars or Captain Marvel or whatever, right? So
yeah, it's like, get over it. You know what? Yeah. And that's the one thing about the internet that really, really irks me off, is that it's given a voice to these He-Man woman hating, these misogynist, racist assholes that fancy themselves to be some sort of expert or some whatever. And all it's done is empower them to get together as pussies. And I don't even want to say pussy because that's disrespectful. To be these wimps that hide behind screens and all they do is trash talk. And the instant that they have to freaking deal with consequences, they either want to sue somebody or they just block and try to ruin people's reputation.
You know, the thing I think that we have to remember is that the internet has also given all of us a voice as well. And
it does. It's allowed me to yell. And
we have to be louder. So
thank you. And Anita's even right. Historically, if mermaids were real, Black Mermaid is perfectly possible, as mermaids were folklore. You know what? I don't care why they're upset. You know what? If it really upsets you that somebody black is doing something, get over it. And you know, and I hope you're so mad that your head explodes and it paints your home in your useless gray matter.
Well, and the other thing is, like, if you have to go back to the 15th century for your justification, okay, I guess let's make America great again, right? I mean, like, that's the whole thing, is that you're going to the 15th.
You really have to.
You know who else? You know who didn't have a voice in the 15th century? Anyone brown.
Yes, anyone not white and male had no voice. So, you know, and here's an idea. If you really want to go back to that time, I guess a lot of y'all gonna have to start packing your bags and getting back on a boat back to Europe. if you got that, but it's just like, it's enough. It's 2019. Get over it. And if you can't get over it, well then, hey, you could always drink Drano.
Yeah. Yeah, Richard White coming in with some pretty good stuff here. Honestly, some, things can go either way. Time to change it up with 007. But also, and this, Brian, may be the comment of the day from Richard White.
Okay.
The Rock replacing David Hasselhoff.
Well, hey, you know what? I don't think anyone really cared anyway.
Right. Yeah,
really cared. The only thing that people cared about when it came to Baywatch was Pamela Anderson, Yasmin Bleeth, Nicole Eckert, and all the other women running very slowly. Exactly. Exactly.
One more?
Yeah, a little more. There we go. You know what? What else is there? Because now I'm in a bad mood.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? Let's hit on a little Plotaholics mini review.
Plotaholics mini review. Yeah.
All right.
Far From Home. Now, I went to go see this on the 4th of July. Sharon and I went to go see this. We went to go see it at my favorite theater in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, the Monroeville Cinemark. And once again,
shout out to Monroeville.
Yep. And you know what? The Monroeville Cinemark movie theater is in Monroeville Mall, which is where they filmed the original Dawn of the Dead, Shane.
Oh.
Yeah. So Tom Holland, once again, he is like John Henry nailing it. I mean, he really is. He is amazing once again as Peter Parker.
His casting was a revelation.
It really was, and he gets even more comfortable as Peter Parker this time around. Like I think he did a better job this time around as Peter Parker than he did in Homecoming.
Yeah,
I mean, he's really, really great. It's really, really great to see him and Jon Favreau really feeding off of each other. And having Jon Favreau sort of, spoiler alert for those that haven't seen it yet, but it's not a big spoiler. Jon Favreau is seeming, as Happy Hogan, seems to be replacing Tony Stark as like a father figure because you forget Spider-Man, Peter Parker is a young kid and he's looking for a father figure. He has the surrogate mother and Aunt May, but he still wants that father figure.
Brian, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
How have you felt about the MCU not having an Uncle Ben?
We've seen Uncle Ben die twice now. I'm okay with them not introducing. I mean, I think having it have happened off screen and they don't really talk about it, I think it's great because we know by now.
Yeah, I get that. Has he mentioned it at all? Like, I don't think that it's even a part of his story.
Well, they mention, all the things that May went through in Homecoming. His suitcase is Uncle Ben's suitcase.
Okay.
So there's
so it's there. Okay.
The Easter eggs are there for it, but it's sort of like I like how they're doing it. It's like it's too painful for them to talk about, so they don't talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, part of what made the first two Sam Raimi films so powerful was the Uncle Ben dynamic.
Right, but I think that with getting a newer, more contemporary Aunt May, I think
that's fair.
I think that you needed a little bit more of a contemporary
Aunt May also. It's pretty hot.
Man, Marissa Tomei. Marissa Tomei is one that is like her aging is just like halted, and she is just hotter by the nanosecond.
I'm trying to figure out because when I hear her name, I'm like, I feel like she's like older, but
she was born in the late 60s, man. So
what? That's not true.
I will go to Wikipedia right
now. Are you consulting Wikipedia right now?
I am going to consult Wikipedia.
Hey, everybody. This episode of the Plotaholics Live brought to you by Wikipedia.
All right. Marissa Tomei, American actress. Wow. December 4th, 1964.
All right. So let's do some real quick math. All right. So you go from 70 to 80, that's 10, right? 80 to 90, that's 20. 90 to 2000, that's 30. 2000 to 2010 is 40. All right, and then you go back, you add the 6, that's 46, and then you add the 9, That's 55 years old.
Yeah, she will be 55 this year. And she doesn't look a day over 34.
No. It's wild.
You know what? You know who else is aging amazingly is Fran Drescher. She's 61 and she looks like she's 30.
Yeah, she is aging really well. Okay, this is not a mini review of women aging.
No, it's not.
Let's get focused here.
All right. So and I have to say one of the best parts of this movie has to be Jake Gyllenhaal as Quentin Beck. He actually makes you believe that he is like just the greatest dude ever. Yeah. Sharon like poked me at least 3 times in the theater, and she's like, "I thought you said Mysterio was a bad guy. He's so nice." I'm like, "Isn't he? He's Jake Gyllenhaal. He's the greatest dude ever."
That's Donnie Darko, bro.
Yes, he was Donnie Darko, and he's another one that just has gotten better with time. Sam Jackson, you get what you expect from Samuel L. Jackson. He makes you laugh. He had one of the funniest lines. Some of the funniest lines in the film, like, "Did you just ghost?" Like, there's like a whole point. Nick Fury's trying to get in touch with Spider-Man, and Happy's like, "You did not just ghost Nick Fury. You don't ghost Nick Fury." But Spider-Man saying, I'm just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and you get the "Bitch, please, you've been to space." I mean, if that joke, while it was funny, it still felt out of place for Nick Fury.
Yeah, and I don't want you to go into too many spoilers here.
I'm not going deep into spoiler mode, but you find out why it's out of character, but you get a reasoning why. Nick Fury's been through a lot. He's grown as a character as well. Yeah. You find out that, the snap, as we know it, is actually being referred to as the blip, which I don't like. And, you find out a lot about what the world is like. Shout out to Kelly Russell. Jake Gyllenhaal was amazing. But you find out what the post-snap Marvel universe is like, as well as post-Endgame world, what that's like. And I think it's really, really well done. The heart is there, the laughs are there. Zendaya does an even better job as Michelle Jones. Not Mary Jane Watson, Michelle Jones. And she is really, really great. And her on-screen chemistry with Tom Holland is still impeccable. Honestly, if I'm going by our Plotaholics shot rating, and for those who don't know, we go from a 0 to 5 shot ratings. I would give this movie an actual solid 1.5, maybe
1.5 shots, which means according to the Plotaholics shot rating system, the lower the number of shots, the better the film.
Exactly.
So a 0 shot movie is the perfect film. You don't have to be drunk at all to watch it.
Mm-hmm. And I think, if you just have a mellow buzz going to watch this movie, you're fine. It's not without its problems. A lot of people, if you're not a fan of the quote Iron Man Jr. aspect of Spider-Man, you're not going to be happy because, he's still quote unquote Iron Man Jr. You're not going to like that. And
you know who I want to be Iron Man Jr.? Shuri.
You know what? I want Shuri to be just badass Wakandan chick.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I want her to get into that.
You want her to be Ironheart. You want her to become Ironheart.
Yeah.
I would be cool with that. Because they set that up perfectly for her. But yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. It's a fun movie. It's really, really good. And the best part about it is that you can finally breathe a little bit from Marvel. And this is a great breathe moment. The only one who thinks that New York would have been nothing more than a crater after all the mutant fights going on. You know what? Because think of it this way, Mike. If you recall, in Independence Day, and they're saying, "Stay away from the ships." What did people do? They went to the tallest buildings where those ships were and partied there. People will go just so they can say they are there.
Well, and also, Mike, you got to remember property values are probably pretty down in that market at this point.
And you figure, insurance rates may be up, but property values are way down. So
either that or it's like you can buy this property, which is adjacent to the battlefield where Iron Man took down Thanos.
Exactly. Or it's like, if you look here, this is where one particular person had one of those Chitauri whale things fall out of the sky and crush them to death right here. And some morbid goth dude is like, life is pain, man. Yeah.
Oh man. All right, one more thing here before we start to wrap things up, and that, Brian, is what's opening this weekend.
Opening this weekend. What's opening?
Man, you really took things in a different direction that time.
Well, I ended the last segment a little bit dark, so I had to take it there.
Well, Brian, the only thing of real note in terms of pop film this weekend is the big Lion King remake.
I actually won. I'm supposed to have been winning tickets to go see it. I haven't no one's gotten in touch with me to be able to get my tickets yet. But I'm kind of excited to see this. I'm not a big fan of Beyonce, but
I love Donald Glover.
Donald Glover is amazing, and you got Pedro Jones coming back as Mufasa.
As good, like the animation looks so good.
It looks real.
But that's the problem, man, is that it looks too real. Like, those animals aren't going to be able to emote like people, like the cartoons did. And I think that that's going to create a problem.
I just want to see Timon, Pumbaa, and Simba. Hakuna Matata.
I've seen a clip of Hakuna Matata, and it looks... How do you say something looks like garbage because it's too pretty? Does that make sense?
I can kind of see that.
Like, it looks too good. Like, the charm of the first one is that they looked like, I mean, the cartoon, like, you can sort of write human emotion into that, but when you're going for photorealistic animals, like, you can't do the same kind of emotion,
I hear you. I think that, I don't know, man. I haven't really been checking out any of the stuff for it, to be honest. I just want to go into it like with fresh eyes. I haven't watched anything about it at all.
Yeah, and like some of the I don't know, man. Like, you liked Aladdin a lot, the remake.
I loved Aladdin. I thought Aladdin was great. Aladdin is with I thought Aladdin was really, really awesome. I think it was.
Well, you know what's.
It wasn't just like a copy and paste. It wasn't like a carbon copy,
right?
Cartoon. It was,
and they say that this isn't either. But what Aladdin and what Beauty and the Beast did well is that they dialed up the magic of the originals with the special effects. But I think that the Lion King is leaning so far into the photorealism that it's losing some of the magic of the original.
Yeah, I think that's true. But I also said that after Aladdin, I was done. I was totally done. But it's like, I do kind of want to see what they're gonna do, because I like Seth Rogen, I like Donald Glover.
Well, and everything that I've read says that Timon and Pumbaa do steal the show, as they did originally.
Okay.
So I mean, they say that it's like a visual masterpiece. But because of that, it just kind of loses a little bit. It is certified rotten on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Well, see, and here's the thing.
By 1 percentage point.
Well, see, and this is what I'll tell everyone. Don't use Rotten Tomatoes to gauge movies. Go see them, because there's a lot of movies that critics have hated that I've absolutely loved. So,
yeah.
But I mean, you know what? And after Mulan, I'm going to be done, because I'm very excited to see what they do with it. But yeah. I'm about done, and I agree with one of our previous commenters that said that, they don't like this whole carbon copy cartoon to live action. I think that there's more than enough stories that should be able to be told that, you should tell without trying to go back to the well. Mulan looks good, and I'm actually excited the fact that they're not doing the silly stuff. They're actually treating Mulan like the real story, with no cutesy music, no cartoony stuff. It's actually going to be like action, and I'm actually excited for that. And I'm actually glad to see, once again, more things getting, the proper representation. You know what I mean? Like as when we were kids, coming up, most films that were primarily Asian were still sort of exploitation, or even still had that latent racism to it.
Right.
As much as I love you too, I'm looking at you, The Last Dragon. But and Well, Big Trouble in Little China, I think, is totally different because I feel like John Carpenter gave a lot of love and respect to Big Trouble in Little China with, the Asian actors in the main roles. And the only two non-Asian actors were Kurt Russell and Kim Cattrall and whatever that other chick's name is, the villain from Max Payne. But either way.
Well, Bryan, it is just about that time. If you are still with us, thank you so much for watching Plotaholics Live. We'll be back next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for another dose of pop culture. Remember to follow us, share us, pass us on, hit the subscribe, hit the notification button on whatever you're watching us on. You can find us on all social media at Plotaholics. Download the podcast, subscribe to the podcast on any podcast service. And remember, don't forget to leave reviews. And remember, we are smack dab in the middle of the Summer of Cusack.
And our Gross Point Blank just dropped yesterday, so make sure you check that out. And coming up next week, we're gonna have. Well, actually, no, we'll be recording it. We recording it next week or this week?
Sometime. Well, now I'm back. We can do things a little slower now.
Well, we're gonna be doing Hot Tub Time Machine next, so that's gonna be fun. And then we're gonna finish out the Summer of Cusack with Say Anything. And you know what? I think on our next podcast, we have a very special announcement for you guys.
Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah.
But I do believe that's going to do it for me and for Sonic. And for the Plotaholics, I am Shane Wilson.
And I'm Bryan Tan.
And we will see you again real soon. We're the Plotaholics. A breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics. Ripping plots apart for you.